Welcome to the High Pressure Podcast with me, George Ratermann.
And me, Marie Williams. Brought to you by Reliably Ratermann.
Bringing you industry news and trends.
Plus, insightful conversations with industry leaders.
Let's get to today's show.
Okay, so welcome back to the High Pressure Podcast. We are here with Craig Pagano, Ratermann Manufacturing's National Sales Manager, along with Dino from Sherwood. Craig and Dino, thank you for joining today.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So let's get into what this episode is about, which is revolutionize your inventory, Sherwood's RPV valves for better margins and happier clients. So Dino, would you mind touching on what an RPV valve is?
Sure, absolutely. So an RPV valve, or a residual pressure valve, it's a valve used in industrial gases for the most part that incorporates a non-return check valve that's built in and designed into the valve. And there's a couple things that an RPV valve will do for you compared to a standard conventional valve. One is it retains a positive pressure or a heel pressure inside of the cylinder. Two, it eliminates any possibility of any cross-contamination of other gases that some people might hook up and inadvertently hook up and allow gas to flow. This RPV valve does not allow that to happen. And lastly, it helps with respect to any backflow of moisture, and it stops any moisture that would try to go back into a cylinder due to the non-return function of an RPV.
Amazing. And Craig, when you're out in the field visiting Ratermann customers, what are the common reasons of why they choose an RPV valve? What solution does that create for them?
One of them, what just touched on about the moisture getting back in. A lot of the beer distributors, it's really key. I think it's one of some of the bigger ones that have certain requirements for when they're filling their cylinders, and moisture is one of them. And the other advantage too that a lot of distributors like is that they can fill right. They don't have to pull a vacuum on the cylinder. They can fill right on top of it. So when you have that residual pressure that Dino was just talking about, they can fill on top of that, increase their production time, and guarantee knowing that the purity of the CO2 is a lot cleaner, no moisture. A lot of people don't understand what gets inside when moisture gets inside of a cylinder. It can corrode the walls. You get moisture. It's a steel cylinder, right? They're not coated with anything in there. And so it just helps improve. Obviously, that's a CO2 product that actually goes into, a beer gas, and it makes it much cleaner and much more stable. So,
and same with the cannabis market, correct?
Oh, the cannabis market. What was happening before RPV valves, they were filling and they were backfilling into the cylinder. And when you take the cylinder out to, a restaurant or bar or something, and the smell the odor was transferring into stuff. It was, I guess it was quite interesting when family places, and they're like, what's that very distinct smell? So a lot of people, they have become very popular. One, RPV valves for the obviously for the beer industry, and very popular for the cannabis industry, to stop that backflow of anything back into the cylinder, like Dino was explaining.
Excellent. And Dino, Sherwood has a unique innovation around RPV valves, correct? With the engineering you put into that?
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of the industry knows, but we were one of the first in the U.S. This goes back in the early 90s when we first developed the RPV valve, and they branded it the SureCheck. Up until recently, probably it's been about a year now, we've installed and invested in new machining technology at Sherwood. This will go about a year and a half ago. As the rates of RPV valves have increased over the last couple of years, it's probably been in the 30% year over year adoption, where we see the business moving. So we've invested in higher end technology and machining for throughput to make sure that we are able to supply as this continues to move over the next 5 to 10 years.
Excellent. And what's the business impact of, RPV valves, the cost savings and benefits of that? What really are those for a distributor?
And probably, I know Greg can touch upon it too. I mean, vacuum savings, which he's already touched upon, is huge. That's a huge, once you get the first package installed and purged and vacuumed. As long as you've got a positive residual pressure heal in there, you don't have to do it again. And that also, in turn, you get increased capacity through the same fill lines. Some realize it, some don't. Is the residual gas?
The residual gas. Exactly.
Helium gas has gone through the roof, as everybody knows, in terms of pricing per 100. And we've had customers tell us that what's your average residual that you're getting back? Is it 8%, 10%, 12%? And that's some substantial savings that that they can put back into the market that they're getting back just by using a residual pressure valve. I think we calculated that a package of changing your whole fleet on 10,000 cylinders is like paybacks are in months, not years. When it comes to looking at your fleet, making a decision whether or not it makes sense for you to go down that road. And unfortunately, valves are lasting too long in the market and in service, so they're actually made too good.
Right. But that is true, though. We have a customer, well, several customers, but one of them very recently switched everything over, like all of their helium valves over to RPV valves, and they said that the cost savings are fantastic. So
yeah, it's immediate,
especially on helium. I mean, that's the biggest one, right?
Would you mind explaining how RPVs ensure better gas quality and quantity, which in turn leads to happier end users?
Sure. I mean, my opinion on it is that, once you have a new package and you clean out your cylinder, or if it's new and you got a high purity or a purity package, the valve in itself is going to help you from, like we said, cross contamination and moisture, which leads to higher purity.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize, a lot of distributors, end users will leave the valve open. When that valve's open, all that moisture, without an RPV valve, all that moisture is going back. It's going back inside that cylinder. And so you have to purge it for that much longer. And when, you get, to get moisture out of a tank, you really have to bake something out. So when they're new, if you start new with an RPV valve, you don't have that ongoing problem of moistures getting into the micropores of the steel of the cylinder.
So let's talk about some case studies. Craig, do you have any that come to mind, or Dino, you as well, of customers that switched over to Sherwood RPV valves and
my probably
experience?
Customer would have been with a large major, the air gases of it. In the beginning they had a few issues with it, and then I believe they finally adopted. And Dino could probably, because he obviously deals with air gas on a much larger scale. But I believe that at first they had a little pump issues, and it was backflowing. And I know the evolution of the valve now that's all been resolved. And they're seeing the benefits of the residual pressure, purity's gone up and stuff like that. That's pretty much my case studies that I had, that, some of the majors at first were a little resistant, and now they're recognizing the benefits of it and really seeing what an RPV valve can really bring it to the bottom line with the cost savings and not having to pull vacuum and so forth. So.
Craig's right. The majors have kind of taken the lead on a lot of that. And, something like a case study would be bundle packs. So if you're a distributor that has bundle packs and you don't have to spend a ton of money and change all the cylinders out, you change header valves out. And what they've done is you take your header valves out with your standard valves, you put RPVs on both sides. It's not a huge investment when you look at the whole picture of a bundle pack. You're talking about two valves that are going to protect anywhere between 6, 8, and 12 cylinders. And if you wanted to do your own little case study and say, okay, what I'm going to do a 10 or 15 bundles if I have in my fleet, change them all out and run them around and see what kind of benefit you do get from that. And it's, like I said, what we said earlier, it's almost immediate. And that's kind of what we've seen a lot of the majors and how they migrated, going from investigating in RPVs, trialing RPVs. And then once they start to see that benefit, all helium's going across RPVs, argon's going across RPVs. A lot of more industries are starting to see the benefit that they can gain from utilizing this type of technology on cylinder valves.
Absolutely. And I know, like, Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, but some of our customers that use the RPV valve for cannabis, it's also an extraction process, right? Because that extract potentially can backflow.
Well, yeah, that's true. Because anytime, a lot of in the counter for stripping and stuff, you don't want any of stuff to backflow into it. Typically, I think if they're using CO2, they're not using a hydrocarbon to strip with, right? They're stripping with CO2. But
Right.
that stuff I've seen the process, it can back up, and that's just one layer of protection. And you don't want any of that going back into a cylinder. And so, but for a while there,
it's not a can. It's not a can. They do it. It's pretty bad when it comes to the hydrocarbon side.
Yep.
They need to figure that out.
Yeah, I agree. So Dino, to wrap up this call, if you were to pick like the top 3-4 takeaways for customers interested in RPV valves, what would those benefits be?
Just to reiterate, I think you got to take a look at the number of cylinders you have, what kind of market you're in, and if you're turning a lot of the inert gases, and I think it's an area that you really need to take a look at for the future of how to improve your operation from a cost saving metric, if you wanted to look at that way, as well as a throughput metric. Those are two invaluable things that I would take a look at as a distributor when I'm making a decision to launch or transition to RPV technology. Like I said earlier, if you wanted to start off small and you got some bundle packs, that'd be an easy way and not as a expensive way to start the transition as you to prove to yourself that this is something that you definitely want to do. At the end of the day, I mean, you look at what has happened in the Europe market. They're now like 80-20 RPV to standard valves out. I think it's going to be eventually the U.S. market's going to get there. And how fast does the distributor want to get in on that on the ground floor and get that thing moving?
Amazing. And if you're listening and you have questions about Sherwood valves and Sherwood RPV valves, there's a whole other line. Like Sherwood valves goes on forever. There's so many products there. So if you have questions, please reach out to Ratermann Manufacturing, and we're happy to help you. Dino, I can't thank you enough for joining today. And Craig, thank you as always.
No, it was great to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
Great. So any questions, awesome. like Marie said, we're here to answer, and we'd love to sit down and talk with anybody further about this. So.
Great.
Thanks for watching. Stay up to date with the latest news in the gas and welding industry by clicking on the subscribe button.
And check out one of our other videos to learn more. Find out more about Reliably Ratermann at rmiordered.com.